Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Backlog Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel, and this is my $70 billion co-host, Abram Bueter. And today we're here for what I am, for the moment, terming the biggest day in gaming history. And I don't think that there would be many people who disagree, because from a monetary standpoint, this is the biggest move that I've ever heard of. I could ever conceive, because today we're going to be talking about the fact that Xbox, Microsoft, whoever you want to fucking call them, has purchased Activision-Blizzard. Now, of course, Activision purchased Blizzard. That was a big deal. And now it's all one big fucking smorgasbord. And we're going to talk about the ramifications, our opinions on it, our community's opinions on it. But if you want to talk to us about your opinions on this or anything else gaming or related nonsense at all, join our Discord, links in the description. And also subscribe to the channel, please, for the love of fucking God. And ring the comment, like the bell, all those shit fucking things, you know?
Tucker, it's like Qui-Gon Jinn once said, there's always a bigger fish. And today we learned who the biggest fish is.
Yes.
And that is Philip Spencer, who one fucking hell of a way to get us back into recording. It's been a long time since we sat down for one of these jokers, but we could not talk about this. So Tucker, I want you to get into my headspace for a moment, right?
I'm usually there, but I have to worm my way back in for now.
I wake up 4:45 this morning.
Wow,
John and I coming back here to Wheaton.
Yes.
We get in the car, we fall asleep.
Yeah, naturally.
I wake up.
Who's driving? No one knows.
Nobody's driving. We actually live, Wheaton's at the bottom of a hill, we're at the top of a hill, we push get in and we wake up and we're there. I check my phone, Tucker. $70 billion have been spent.
Yes.
On Activision-Blizzard.
Yes.
By Microsoft. Now, Tucker, the first thing I do is say, what?
Yeah.
What is your high-level reaction to what is an obscene bit of news, I might call it?
My first reaction was coming from me checking my phone first thing I wake up this morning. 8 a.m., my alarm goes off. Actually, I woke up at 7:59, right before my alarm went off. And
you knew.
I checked the messages, and it was all holy shit, you know, Discord messages, Twitter, all sorts of crazy things. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Now, I don't remember if we actually talked about this, but of course, I had a very similar moment waking up to the Bethesda acquisition 315 days ago, as I did this morning, last year, in which I was actually not as shocked as most people were. Of course, in retrospect, I should have been, but that was just a small fry in comparison to something that is literally monetarily 10 times bigger.
I believe,
which is
the biggest tech acquisition ever, I believe.
Okay. Oh, interesting. All right. That's
yes.
I mean, I don't know anything about any other tech acquisitions, but
yes.
I think interestingly enough, obviously, this is very shocking. This is the biggest news, biggest day in gaming history, as I've said. But I'm not as like earth core shaken because the Bethesda acquisition like warmed us up for this.
Right. Yeah.
Like if they had gone out of the gates with this, I would have been like 10 times more shocked. But it's still, there's no denying that this is the biggest move ever, and it could have some crazy ramifications, good, bad, all sorts of things in between. And we're going to talk about all of that.
Yeah. Well, so I don't really have any great opinion of this today.
Okay,
and,
sure.
And I think that's an important thing because I was fucking curmudgeonly annoyed trying to, it's fucking so cold here on the East Coast right now. Trying to move boxes. This motherfucker's like, oh, you want to do discussion? You want to talk about this news? And my first thought was like, what are we going to say? Because ultimately, I think we're about to enter, because deals of this magnitude take a long time to actually get signed.
Yeah.
So
it probably might not go through till 8 months from now.
Apparently, fiscal year 2023, which is from the beginning of 2023 to the beginning of 2024. So it's going to be a while.
Sure.
We're about to march.
They usually call that the year.
Yeah, but fiscal years are fucking dumb.
Yeah.
We're about to march into the same period of, is Call of Duty going to be exclusive?
Yep.
Who's going to run Activision?
Yes.
But we don't know. The bottom line is we don't know. There have been reportings. Wall Street Journal is reporting that Bobby Kotick is out. As people close to the deal know, that they can't legally talk about it right now, but he is being forced out of the company. Which that is an entire dimension to this entire story.
One of the biggest dimensions, I would say.
Yeah, the exposure of the blatant and heinous crimes at Activision-Blizzard.
Yes.
That Microsoft, I do have confidence Microsoft will right the ship. They have a very diverse leadership that I do not think would stand for the people who are in power at Activision to remain in power.
Yeah.
And Microsoft has the fucking big stick to kick them out. So there's a lot of questions, and ultimately, I think for the player, it's a very good thing.
That's the interesting part about all of this. I come into this as I said, not as shocked as I probably should be. Frankly,
Yeah.
My brain is numb to the
Sure.
large the width of this fucking number that has been spent does not really register in my brain, because once you
No.
pass like $1.5 million, I'm like, it's all the fucking same. And of course, that is not true. But
Right.
like the magnitude of this being 10 times more than Bethesda, which is like was like double how much Disney spent on Marvel, and like 3 times that was what Microsoft spent on Mojang. Like all these things keep ratcheting up and up and up. But all this monopolizing and large amounts of money and that kind of stuff is really hard for me to frankly comprehend, because I'm not an economics major. I'm not into the industry in a monetary way or anything like that. So all I can do is break this down from how will this impact me as a consumer, as a player of Xbox and of all consoles, a student of the industry, and how will it impact these franchises, these brands going forward. And frankly, from what I can break down and speculate, of course, that's what we're doing today, it does seem for there to be pretty clear positives. And that's what my mind instantly gravitates toward.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm waiting with bated breath for the inevitable Sacred Symbols Plus episode that Colin Moriarty would do with Rick Hogue, who's an actual lawyer.
Sure. Yes.
So they can break down the more economic sides of things. But I think that there is a very rightful fear. And I don't even, again, I'm like you, I'm speaking from the player's perspective. I think there's a rightful fear of monopolization within the industry.
Yeah.
But not from Microsoft. I don't think.
Okay.
I think there's a huge difference between Tencent buying a company and Microsoft buying a company.
Sure.
And I think there's a couple differences. I think, first of all, Microsoft has proven to be the most consumer-friendly ecosystem to be in.
Easily, yeah.
As we've talked about, but I think they've also proven that they are here to buy, but not to meddle.
Sure.
Bethesda was a clear example of that. They said, we own Bethesda. The leadership stays, the team structure stays, you make your games, we just publish them now.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, it's going to be a little bit more hands-on with Activision, because they have to,
because they need to.
Yeah, they need to get people out of that admin. But I don't think it's going to be the sort of situation where like early mid 2000s EA or Activision in the 2010s buys a studio and then it becomes subsumed into the Battlefield machine, the Call of Duty machine.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Toys for Bob getting eaten and fucking kicked onto Call of Duty DLC or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Like, I don't think Microsoft poses that kind of threat. I don't think they have to. They have 35 studios in the Xbox game system studios stable now. They do not pose a threat to their creative outputs. To the contrary, they might actually benefit it. Like, I don't think a game like The Medium comes out unless Microsoft is there to fund it, right? I think that their pocketbook is actually a big benefit to players in this instance, where it typically isn't, when these more predatory companies who want a studio for a reason to put it into their homogeny already. That's typically where the issues with monopolization from the player's perspective, again, from the player's perspective, arise. And that doesn't seem to be an issue here.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about what meddling means. Obviously, the top level is something that we will never be able to fully comment on, to fully comprehend. But what it does seem from the track record of Microsoft and Xbox being more hands-off with their studios, allowing more creative ideas, not subsuming, as you were saying. But this opportunity is to subsume in presumably a good way. And that's where I think the greatest positive, and I think clear positive of this is that Microsoft is purchasing Activision at their lowest. They are the embarrassment of the entire video game industry. They are causing all these issues. Bobby Kotick is this fucking weasel that everyone wants kicked out. And this seems like it might have been the only way for that to happen, to finally have Activision-Blizzard have someone to answer to. And that having someone to poke them and be like, hey, no, get your shit together, or we're going to make you get your shit together, will be a benefit for everyone under that Activision-Blizzard umbrella. All these teams and these games and these studios that are having all these issues will probably benefit greatly from this in terms of culture, in terms of creative freedom. And that is a huge benefit to all of them and to the consumers. Something like Overwatch 2 going through so much shit because half their fucking development team up at the top had to get kicked out because they were fucking sexual assaulters. Of course, that should have happened. They should be kicked out. They shouldn't be in the game. But now there's stronger leadership, and Overwatch 2 will probably be righted because of that, and hopefully better because of that.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I think it'll be we'll have to see exactly how far the firings go.
Yeah.
Kotick is out for sure. Is the board of directors who defended him out?
Sure.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll see that. In terms of like studio management, again, if Microsoft is going to be kind of hands off, I'm sure they can funnel more resources that way and shuffle things around. I don't necessarily know if they're going to intervene in the game like Overwatch's 2's case.
Sure.
I feel like for me, that's like 8 speculative bridges into the future where
That's a good
we're
point.
like,
well, that game's probably not coming out for 8 years anyway.
right. A bridge for every year that we still have to go in development. But no, I think that the big question for me that feels like a little bit more immediate to speculate on is what doesn't leave Xbox now. Now here's where it gets interesting, right? Because the reason you look at something like Final Fantasy 16, I feel like people kind of look at what Sony's doing in a different light when I think it's in some respects worse, in which they are buying PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4 exclusivity to these humongous games, right?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 16 for at least a year is probably going to only be on PlayStation, right? In the hypothetical, let's keep it small. Let's say Spyro 4, which I think was one of the rumored games from a while ago. It's probably canceled now because Toys for Bob is fucking dead.
True.
But let's say Spyro 4 comes out and is an Xbox exclusive. Well, with the way that Xcloud is moving, with the way the Game Pass is moving, you play it right here if you don't have a series unit. If you play it in your browser if you want, right? I think that there's a lot less danger there.
Sure, in terms of the restrictiveness of exclusivity.
Yeah, because Xbox is trying to open the doors. So all of a sudden, what used to be a more premium and expensive product, sure, available in each ecosystem, is now going to be, if you're willing to follow it, a very affordable product. And Activision is with EA, the publisher producing the games that sell the most.
Sure.
Bethesda is a big deal, but Bethesda, honestly, outside of Skyrim, outside of Fallout to an extent, Doom to an extent, they don't matter the way that an Activision game matters.
Of course not. Yes.
So now we're playing with the fucking big chips here. So the big Tucker back COD banter has just begun.
Yes. Perfect timing.
Yes. Do you think Call of Duty becomes exclusive to Xbox?
Here's the thing. Now, I've been piecemealing together from different sources, from tweets, from videos, from all sorts of different discussion, the truth of what Xbox is communicating about this deal. And of course, it's clouded in vagary. It's clouded in, and we can't tell you exactly what's happening yet. This isn't coming to fucking fruition for 8 months, all sorts of nonsense. But the wording, if you're to take the vagary wording of this versus the Bethesda acquisition, is quite different. If you remember back to the Bethesda acquisition, when they were like, we're going to look for what consoles ecosystems fit best for our games, those sort of thing, were vagary in the way of, Outlook, not too good for other systems having access to this. However, there is a difference in the wording here. I can't remember the exact wording. I don't know. I'll pull it up or fucking put a link in the description if I need to. But it was something along the lines of, well, actually, no, I can't pull the exact thing up. I sent it to a friend.
Yeah, go to Nibel. Nibel is usually
I'll go to Joe Wright, who I sent him the screenshot.
Fucking Joe Wright.
Activision-Blizzard games are enjoyed on a variety of platforms, and we plan to continue to support those communities moving forward. Now, obviously, that is relatively vague. However, I do think it signals a stronger realization of some things will still be available on other platforms. I don't think PlayStation is getting completely cut out of Call of Duty and Overwatch and all that. Maybe it'll be cut off Overwatch and not Call of Duty. Maybe it's the other way around. But I do think that there's going to be a different balance here in the widespreadness. Because as you said, there is a huge widespread infiltration of everything Activision. I frankly do not think Call of Duty will be an Xbox exclusive. And of course, speculation. I don't fucking know.
Right.
2 weeks from now, we could know that it's coming only to Xbox or vice versa. I don't think it'll only be exclusive to PlayStation. That would not make a lot of sense.
Yes.
Unless you're Deathloop or Ghostwire Tokyo. But I don't think there's going to be as much tight exclusivity as there is with the Bethesda acquisition.
Yeah, no, I agree. And because this is Minecraft level, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yes.
Any individual Call of Duty game is not that ubiquitous, but Candy Crush is pretty up there. The King titles on mobile are up there, which Activision owns. Call of Duty as a franchise is up there, right? I think that in instances like this, similar to Minecraft, you weigh the what you lose in revenue from not selling the game on PlayStation to what you gain by having it only on Xbox. And I think that in the case of Call of Duty, you definitely lose more than you gain because, hey, we're going to put it on PlayStation, but we're going to get, 30% of every copy sold?
Yes.
Outrageous, right?
So which is, as you said, the balance. Frankly, they'd probably be making more money selling more copies and making that chunk fully as opposed to making all of it, but with probably half or less than half of the copy sold.
Yeah. I think that that's not a risk they're going to take. Yeah. I also think that Overwatch, I think that the Blizzard stuff is pretty safe on PC.
Yeah, because most of it's PC only.
Right. Whether it migrates out of the BattleNet horseshit launcher into something else, we'll see, or if that launcher gets rebranded. But I think that these are games that must remain where they are for the most part. I think what becomes more compelling is like that sort of underlayer of games.
Sure.
The Crash Bandicoots and the Spyros and the Tony Hawk Pro Skaters and the things like this, which I think beyond a shadow of a doubt do not leave Xbox.
Yeah, sure. And I agree. And I think that's where the difference lies in these franchises that will be exclusive. And that's a very big deal for fans of those franchises.
Yes.
This is not Elder Scrolls 6 is exclusive on Xbox, which I believe, as we know, will be same with Starfield. But this is something for Xbox to add to their stable, not because it's a better draw for them to have this in their exclusive library rather than have it everywhere. There's a balance here that I think kind of makes sense when you break it down. Okay, if you make this acquisition, the biggest ones stay across, the smaller ones can be shelved entirely under Xbox. But again, we don't know, and we're not the experts to really be commenting on this. Well, but in terms of okay, I'm sorry, I don't want to speak for both of us. Where are you going with that? Sorry.
I don't know. I was just trying to inflate our egos. I think you're right, though. I think it's certainly a juggling act.
Yeah.
And I think we have the blueprint pretty much locked down. I think that the Minecraft was kind of diversionary, where we thought that everything Bethesda does. Some people thought that was all going to be everywhere, right? But now you're going to hold back Starfield. You're going to hold back Elder Scrolls. I think it makes sense to hold back Spyro and Crash and Tony Hawk, franchises that no doubt sell very well, but limiting that reach benefits your ecosystem, whereas I think limiting Call of Duty hurts your bottom line.
Yeah, sure.
Because like Call of Duty is the best-selling game every single fucking year, right? And part of that is because it's just everywhere. It's holiday time, so you buy your kid the Call of Duty game, right?
Yeah.
Swipe the credit card. It's like fucking health insurance. You pay for it annually, right? Actually, I don't know if you pay for health insurance annually, but I suppose it's kind of what I want to know about is like what's coming to Game Pass, which is kind of stupid, but it's like
no. I would say that's not stupid. We are the consumer. We are the relatively new for both of us Xbox consumers. Game Pass up and coming, gaining momentum. Even just today, like 3 or 4 more really pretty big games announced to be coming.
Yeah, Danganronpa just
dropping for whatever fucking reason.
I just downloaded that actually.
Oh God, it's a cold day in hell when Abram Biener plays Danganronpa. But Game Pass is the other benefit. I was talking about there being 2 benefits. One, as I said, I started with, I think is obviously the more important one from a morality standpoint, is fixing Activision's shit using the fucking poking power of Xbox. That's very important. But from the consumer side, the morality of the studios aside, what's coming to Game Pass is more important to us for impacting our day-to-day lives. It's assuming that we're playing Blizzard games on Game Pass every day, which we totally will. And I would not be surprised if almost everything comes to Game Pass. If we get that back catalog filled out, if we have day and date releases of a lot of things on Game Pass, and of course this further asks the question of how the fuck is Game Pass profitable? Is it like what comes to the point where they have to raise it with all this content? And we'll see that inevitably. I think this is a very big push towards, unfortunately, Game Pass's price being raised because it's offering so much more. But I do think great thing for us consumers, us Xbox consumers, and frankly anyone who can access Xcloud, which is everyone with a computer or a phone. That now they have access to all these games for a relatively low price.
It's not profitable, is the
No,
bottom
of course
line.
not. Of course
Game
not.
Pass not profitable, but I don't know if it is now, but for a long time, Netflix wasn't profitable. Netflix was fucking hemorrhaging money, right?
Yeah.
And at a certain point, like there's a difference between sustainable and profitable. And Phil Spencer has called Game Pass sustainable.
Yeah.
And so they announced today 25 million subscribers, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it's not ubiquitous to the point of a lot of the the TV film streaming services, which is clearly where they're trying to get to, right?
Of course.
And so I think in that interest, everything will come to Game Pass. I do not think it is hard to imagine that Modern Warfare 2 this holiday will be on Game Pass. I don't think that's particularly hard. Yes, not the fucking God forbid that there was a different name for the game.
God forbid they release Modern Warfare 2 2009 or whatever on fucking Game Pass.
Yeah. Well, I also think what will be fun is get a huge dump of those games.
Yes, that's what I'm saying by filling out the backlogs. Yes,
for sure.
God, the Bethesda thing was awesome. They really went full meat and potatoes on that. Yeah,
they did, and having the same here is going to be super cool.
And now I just bought all this fucking COD games on PlayStation for nothing.
That actually I think is the last place to bring the conversation to is what does that mean for other people, right? Because Xbox is very quickly becoming the only place I really want to play my games until Nintendo fucking raps at my door and says they've got a new game coming out, right? But it's like I only want to be on Xbox.
Yeah, of course.
Because of moves like this, right? I've got a PS5 sitting here. I was thinking of this today. I played more Wii U games in the last year than I have PS5 games, right?
Sure.
Like, so I'm in a weird situation.
Well, that was never a question.
Right. And that's external to how I play my games.
Yeah.
But what kind of benefit, what kind of impact do you think this has on mostly PlayStation? Because Nintendo, they get like, if there's a new Spyro, they'd probably get that, but now they won't. But it really matters for PlayStation.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. I'm not that worried about monopolizing stuff because I've seen from these acquisitions of Disney gobbling up stuff and Xbox gobbling up stuff that over the last decade, and maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, maybe I'm not informed enough, and of course that could totally be true, but I have not seen it negatively impact me in any particular way. And of course, it's yet to be seen, but the one extension of this for me is the fact that this monopolization is snowballing. It's getting faster and faster. It is obviously creating a different kind of competition, not from a bunch of different brands, but from a few gobbling up what they can. And what I do think this will unfortunately spur is more acquisitions from Sony side. I do think that we're going to be looking towards them getting other studios under their name, which is not inherently a bad thing, but again, the monopolization snowballing could end up being a bad thing.
I think, well, here's what's interesting about it, right?
Okay, yeah.
You got Activision, EA,
yes,
and Ubisoft,
yes,
right?
Those are there's the big three, and then there's the other big three. Yeah.
In terms of big, and you got other things swirling around there, right? But in terms of the big publishing pillars, one of those just fell, right?
Yeah. Well, wait, you said Activision, Blizzard, Ubisoft, and
EA.
Oh, and EA, yes.
Yeah. One of those just fell for half of what Sony is worth.
Yeah.
Right? Sony cannot afford to do this, right?
Of course not. Yeah.
Can they shoot for like some of the ones below those three? Can they shoot for a Sega? Can they shoot for a Square Enix? I think that they could certainly try, but I think that they can very easily and quickly be outbid. Yeah. I think that Sony is in a position now where a publisher gets approached with a deal that's maybe a little bit low in light of these outrageous prices, and all of a sudden Sony is completely frozen. They don't have the resources Microsoft has.
Yeah, sure.
They can isolate and identify and buy Final Fantasy 16. They could buy a hypothetical Silent Hill game or a Metal Gear Solid game. I think they can do those things, but I don't think that they can punch back. Nobody can punch back the way that Microsoft's punch back, which I think is kind of the dangerous thing, right?
Yeah.
I think the fact that they're such an open ecosystem makes it less punishing than if the roles were reversed and Nintendo was doing these acquisitions, then there'd be a major problem, right? Yeah. But the corporate philosophy of Microsoft,
Call of Duty 2022 only runs on the Wii U.
I want a Captain Price amiibo. That's what I want. But I think basically what I'm saying is they can't do anything. They can buy an exclusive, but they only get hurt. That's my point here. This decision only hurts them.
Well,
they
of course.
Can't fight.
I definitely agree from the fact is we're talking large scale versus larger scale. Like there's a magnitude here that is hard to comprehend. Like because we in our minds think of Xbox and frankly PlayStation bigger than Xbox in terms of market share and mind value, but now Xbox gaining on them. But monetarily, obviously, Microsoft way outbids Sony.
Yes.
However, I do think that they can't compete on the level of buying EA, but I think they are going to try in terms of bidding for Sega, for Square Enix, for Namco, for whoever. Like, I do think that the monopolization is snowballing, as I said, and leading towards not them buying EA, but buying the smaller companies, which is an issue the more and more it continues to happen.
Yeah, see, that is one strategy. I think the other one that my friend John Doyle, who works over at Lock On, was talking about on Twitter this morning, which I think is quite compelling and probably right, is that you can do that, or you can do what PlayStation is already doing and double down on premium exclusives.
Sure.
We don't have a lot, but what we have is unmissable. Sure. And that is a valid, that is why Nintendo's around, right? You know, and I think that there might be a position in which Sony is kind of being jockeyed in that similar corner where they survive on their first party, right?
On their exclusives.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't have, I don't think many people would have bought PS5s if not to play those first party games, right?
Yeah, of course, naturally.
You know, and so is there a future in which they try to lock down on the From Software game the way they did with Bloodborne, the way that they didn't do with Demon's Souls? Probably. But I think the name of the game for them is probably going to be to make that stable just so good that you have to buy this one machine for these dozen games.
Yeah, and frankly, that's the way that they've been trending since the beginning of, or I would say the middle of the PS4 generation. You know, first half of the PS4 generation, looking back, is actually weaker than it initially seemed. But as that end of the PS4 generation, you know, starts snowballing into this, is focusing on the 2 or 3 big games per year, and that's what the PlayStation ecosystem is entirely centered around. And I do think you're right. That track record needs to become even more forefronted as they really say, hey, no, this is what we have that no one else has. And of course they do. And they're all, for the most part, very, very good games. And I'm still very interested in being part of the PlayStation ecosystem for those games. So it's working to that extent.
No, I agree. I think that as I personally find that the PlayStation games become more homogenized on the whole, and I'll play them, but it's sort of that it is. I think there becomes a point where the variety is so overwhelming that it just beats the quality, right?
Sure.
Like I'll turn my Switch on for Legends Arceus at the end of this month and play it until the cows come home. But then once the cows are fucking tucked into bed for the night, I'm turning off my Switch and going back to my Xbox. You know, and so the question will just be, in the eye of the general consumer, can the promise of Ragnarok put a PS5 in your home when the ubiquity of Game Pass puts everything else in your pocket immediately? And I think that's a very interesting question to answer in probably a year from now. We also still do have a few comments and questions and topics to discuss from our community. Would you like to move on to that? I would, but no, I would. What I would like to do, though, because Andrew put out a really thoughtful BLB submission, but he put something even better in the backlog chat. Did you see this? It's a tweet. It's a tweet from Isaiah D. Colbert, who says PlayStation RN probably. And there's a picture of of what's his fucking name?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you blind?
Oh, the new one. Oh, it's fucking James Franco.
Yes.
I have nothing left except Spider-Man. That's funny. Okay, yeah. Moving on to the actual shit that I was discussing earlier. Our friend Andrew of My Star Wars Show fame brings us
Backcod Banter co-host.
Backcod Banter fame. Actually, he's not on the COD 2 review, so right. But he brings us 7 sort of topics and thoughts to discuss. He at first says his first thing is the industry continues to shrink. So much consolidation in the long term isn't good. And I do think that's what I meant by the snowballing is I don't feel it now and frankly, it's a little bit difficult for me to comprehend the problems that monopolization will end up presuming to cause in the future. But if that snowballing continues, it definitely will be an issue.
Again, I think that we're probably Bethesda. I thought it after Bethesda, but I think again after this is just you can't sustain a $70 billion sale for these. And now Ubisoft and EA are probably not worth that. And Namco is certainly not worth that. Sega certainly not worth that. Square Enix is certainly not worth that. But I just think that it's getting harder and harder to scoop things out.
Sure. So that's a good point.
Yeah, if there's another big one, then we can have a conversation. But I think that the more damaging thing is the Tencent model of let's go grab Turtle Rock and let's grab the SNK team or whatever, right? That actually might have been someone different. But I know Tencent just did Turtle Rock, where it's like a company with very dubious ethics and like monetary backing, ends up being I think a lot more damaging from a consolidation perspective. Opposed to this, but it's happening everywhere. Indie teams are gobbling up. Devolver Digital is now a publicly traded publisher, right? So it's certainly happening, but I just don't think there's much more room to contract.
Sure. And you want to read number 2?
As a recent Game Pass subscriber, I'm excited about what will be added to the service. Andrew?
Fucking speeches of the choir.
I'm going to do 3 also. Fuck you.
Oh?
What the fuck do they mean Kotick is staying? But then after the deal is complete, Phil will serve as the sole CEO. Then what position will Kotick have? The answer is almost certainly no position.
At least no power. I think there's a chance that he's still present, but in name only because of his legacy, because of whatever. And not that his legacy is good, but because he's been a part of it for so long, it's hard to kick him out completely. But I think the fact that Phil serves as interim CEO or overhead CEO or something like that essentially makes his job, Kotick's job, obsolete. And then the problem is his power. The fact that a man of this dubious nature has the power that he currently has and has had for a while. And the fact is that that power is taken away, even if he's in a, name only role, that's really all it's not all we can hope for. But it's one of the best case scenarios.
I honestly think that either he's out or it's not good enough.
Okay. Sure. That's a good point. No,
I don't think that, again, there is a very diverse leadership at Xbox that holds certain values,
or at least more diverse.
That are being trodden upon by Activision-Blizzard. And I just think that he's gone. There's no way that he's not gone.
Sure.
But also there's no way that you can have that conversation in the middle of a volatile deal like this. And the other thing that I think people are forgetting about is, like, I woke up today and turned on my Xbox and I used my gift card to buy Killer is Dead, right?
Yeah, of course.
That was a quick decision I could make. When you're spending $70 billion, that is a long process.
Yeah.
I imagine this has been in the works. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I would imagine this has been in the works before those stories started breaking.
Sure.
Right?
That's a good point.
And so I think that part of this might have been a major bit of leverage for Microsoft, the sort of, ooh, we were talking to you, but now all of a sudden you are fucked. Yeah. So that's a little bit more leverage, but I really do think that he'll be gone, and I think that a conscionable Microsoft will get rid of that board too.
Hopefully, yes.
So we'll see.
Now, fucking you. Number 4 says, "Is this an antitrust issue? Can the FTC get involved here or not?"
Hold on. Let me get Albert antitrust on the phone.
Oh, Albert, hello. And neither of us know anything about antitrust laws, frankly.
Oh, he sent me the voicemail. I'll call him back, Andrew. We'll get back to you on that point. This is a good point. All the wind out of Spartacus's sails have just been taken out. How long was this acquisition in the planning stages? We just talked about that. But no, I think that, I forget, it might have been Mike Bethel who wrote on Twitter today, like, hey, do you have any news you want to bury? It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? Because this is as big as it gets, right? So yeah, Spartacus, we'll see. Again, we had a whole discussion being skeptical of it in the first place. So we'll see. There's fucking murmurings in the wind that might not be far away, considering like the PS Now cards are disappearing in Europe, and PS3 games have like store prices on PS5 and all kinds of stuff. So
we'll see. Yeah. So, I mean, the fact is that Spartacus was looking a little bit pale. The rumors of it were looking pale in comparison to Game Pass, but now, Sony is looking pale in comparison to Game Pass, which is, hopefully something that this could spark them to put more effort in. That's one thing that I do say could be good out of this is PlayStation fighting back on the services level, which they've never really had to do because they've been so strong on their exclusives level. But this just is another further kick in the pants to, please, for the love of God, have a great service on your fucking console, or else no one's going to care, because Xbox Game Pass is so good right now.
Xbox Game Pass does not have Vib Thinny ribbon that as Spartacus hopefully will.
That's a great fucking point. Number 6, holy shit, this is happening. Is it the biggest deal in entertainment? As we said, tech industry wise, yes. Star Wars and Marvel were bought by the mouse for just a tiny fraction of this. Is this a weird fever dream?
No.
I think this might be reality.
I think it might be a reality. I just want to say that I was doing a bit of pre-reading here. There's no other place for me to put it. So can we kill Crash Bandicoot? Can this be his opportunity to die? No,
I think he's back stronger than ever, frankly.
People are saying because they live in a fantasy world that these teams will do a Banjo-Kazooie game instead of a Crash Bandicoot game, which I think is not impossible, but I hate to... I don't really like either of them, so I don't really have a horse in that race. But I think that Crash Bandicoot kills Banjo-Kazooie.
Sure.
I don't think the other way around.
Yeah.
And Spyro, who no one gives a shit about Spyro. I hate to say it.
I was Spyro when I was for Halloween when I was like 5. That's just a true fact of mine. And finally,
my turn. Will Microsoft squash the unionization? Will Microsoft squash the unionization efforts of Activision-Blizzard, and how are things going to go? All eyes are on them now, and Microsoft, have garnered a lot of goodwill in gamers' eyes these past 2 years. I don't expect a real answer to this, just speculation. Now,
of course, the entire video so far, we can go for like 35 minutes, all speculation. There's no problem talking about speculation here.
Right.
But I do think that's something that is the number one thought in my head, frankly. Xbox has been pretty much only garnering goodwill for the last 3 or 4 years, and as Game Pass has gotten stronger, more people have flocked to them and looked to them as one of the good forces of the gaming industry. The reason I do think that they're going to use their big fucking stick to push out Kotick, to solve these problems, to get these games and this company back on track, is because they can't afford to lose the goodwill just because Bobby Kotick puts up a fight. They have the money to kick him out, and I think they will, because they need to keep that goodwill. And there's honestly no better goodwill than Microsoft stepped in and fixed fucking Activision-Blizzard.
Yes. Here's where it's complicated.
Okay.
This is, I could be wrong, but at least in the last couple of years, this is in the sort of resurgent age of Microsoft. This is their first opportunity to demonstrate that they have a moral compass that expands beyond their own self-interest. Because ultimately, Game Pass and Xcloud and these things are great and forward-thinking, but they also kind of come from a place of self-interest, capitalistic self-interest, of course, because Xbox needs a new identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then the question becomes, is Microsoft also willing to step beyond that for the more altruistic benefit of workplace cultures and standing up for marginalized peoples, right?
Yes.
And not only in terms of getting Kotick out, but these studios are unionizing. Raven is having huge issues with QA walkouts and everything because they're being treated poorly.
Yep.
Now, does Microsoft support that? Maybe. Do they support unionization? Maybe. Do they funnel enough money so that those people no longer want to unionize? Maybe. Does that become union busting? Maybe. It's going to be very complicated to see sort of like the ethic, how if they can like turn their capitalist stronghold into like an ethical right hook to all these issues. And I don't necessarily know if I have any reason to think that they will or won't do that.
Sure. Yeah. It's hard to see either way. My overly optimistic brain thinks that they can't afford to lose this goodwill in terms of how it's pushing them to be a bigger part of the industry, and because of that they'll want to do the ethically right thing. Obviously yet to be seen. Capitalism's pretty fucking strong, obviously stronger than ethics in most cases, and we'll do a check back in a year.
This is a big opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to put my faith in any company to do the right thing here, it would be this Xbox.
Sure. So. Yeah. Now we've got 2 final ones, a little bit longer, more thought out. Not that his wasn't thought out, but there was more bullet points. Avi says, I'm pretty positive on it overall, especially as a Game Pass member, and the prospect of all the console COD games coming to Game Pass is really cool, as I've only played some of the early ones on Wii. I do think it raises some questions about a monopoly because Activision-Blizzard is a huge company, and if Microsoft is able to make moves like this, it opens a bunch of doors. Overall, I think this will be positive for the industry, as I have hope that Microsoft will be able to turn the company around. I really hope they bring back Spyro in the remake art style.
Oops, sorry, Avi. No one cares about Spyro. He said something that I wanted to comment on.
Okay.
Opens a bunch of doors, very positive for the industry. I think that a lot of the again, I think that there is an understandable skepticism and naysaying around the monopolization.
Yeah.
But I think we got to look further down the line for this one. I think this has deep positive benefits in an ecosystem where Microsoft is pushing ubiquity and access.
Sure.
And I think that in 5 years' time, Microsoft having these games in an Xcloud and in a Game Pass is a lot more beneficial to the player and to the consumer than it is for you to 5 years from now on Modern Warfare 6 buy it at $60.
Sure, that's a great point. Yeah,
PC.
And of course, you were making that point earlier, but putting it in that way is the positive output of this could be that more people get to play more games for less money. And of course, that's looking way into the future. That's like 30 different layers of speculation of hopefully they don't raise the price. Hopefully something doesn't go wrong. But Xbox with this acquisition, and obviously the acquisitions they've been making, have positioned themselves to be the dominant force this generation and for the foreseeable future, which is something that, 3 years ago, if you'd said, you'd look like a fucking idiot. But it's true now. And the ubiquity of Game Pass and the accessibility of it is a positive thing for a lot of people. This is going to change the way that people view purchasing video games.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if things go the way we hope them to, will be the beneficial way, a better way, a more accessible way, a more innovative way, a more modern way for people to access all these games.
This is what happens when a non-gaming company gets involved in gaming but does it right. It's not fucking dumb Amazon Luna or something. This is Microsoft resources doing something that they had the ability to do.
Yeah.
Last comment here comes from off the top rope. It's Sesame Street in a fucking BLB gaming video. Huh?
What?
My thoughts: as long as it gets Overwatch 2 back on track, I'm happy with it. I don't care all too much about the big picture or effects on the gaming industry in the long run, unlike many others here, so I mainly see this as a means to an end in getting my most hyped game of all time. It gives Blizzard credibility again, I think, and I do have faith that Microsoft will take stronger measures in punishing the wrongdoing within the company than the company was and has originally been doing.
Yeah.
Plus, I think this will get more new hires and new blood at Blizzard and help everything overall. Who's to say, though, this could be the worst thing to ever happen to gaming, but I guess we'll see. Seth in a BLB special episode, what?
What? Yeah, I mean, he further elaborates on what I was talking about with Overwatch. Of course, Overwatch, one of my favorite games of all time. The just bumfuckery that is the development cycle of Overwatch 2 has been very disappointing to me, frankly. I really had high hopes for it. And as an Overwatch fan, I was like, yes, we're finally back. But now it's been 4 years since the game was announced. And we've seen it like twice more. And we have no news of when it's coming out. And people are fucking leaving and all this nonsense. But I do think that new blood, lack of terrible people in power, for the most part, or hopefully entirely, will help this game get back on track and be a better product in the long run.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll never know what it could have been like, what even under that past leadership. But for the situation that they were in yesterday, I do think that this signals a better direction for that studio in particular, knowing how big of an issue and how hard they've been impacted by the bullshit, the terrible things that the people at the top of Activision Blizzard and people on their own teams have been, discovered to be doing and have left because of that.
Yeah, we can hope. I think that Overwatch 2 was always a terrible idea.
Sure.
I think that this is one of the critical junctures to prove that games as a platform is a great idea. And they fucked it up. And they're already doing a half thing. It's like the multiplayer suites are cross-compatible. It's like Overwatch 2 is such an awful idea to begin with. And I love Overwatch. I think Overwatch is amazing. I think the idea of a boxed sequel to Overwatch makes no sense.
Sure.
And I don't know how that gets fixed. I honestly think, Tucker, that the the mea culpa moment is that Overwatch 2 is canceled and Overwatch 1 renews support.
That's
And
also entirely possible.
And I don't think that's impossible.
Yeah.
I think that frankly that might be what the game needs, because people in the Overwatch community are not happy with how there's been basically no content for years.
Yeah.
And people who in the existing community, people who exist, are not happy with the fact that this game is never coming up. So we got a new hero at least. Cole Cassidy.
All right. Well, anything else to say? I think we finally wrapped this honker of a day up.
What a topic to come back to for a video, am I right?
Oh yeah. This is the widest I've ever been.